The boss smirked. "Congratulations. You're fired." I calmly handed over my laptop and said, "Good luck with tomorrow's investor presentation." As security escorted me out, I smiled. My secret code would activate in 10 minutes. What happened next shocked everyone. Michael's fingers tightened around his company laptop as Richard Sterling's smug smile burned into his memory. The words still echoed in the sterile conference room. "Congratulations, you're fired. 3 years of 60-hour weeks, of building this company's entire infrastructure from scratch, reduced to a security escort and a cardboard box." But as Michael handed over his laptop with deliberate calm, he felt something Richard couldn't see: the quiet satisfaction of a man who'd planned for this exact moment. Tomorrow's $50 million investor presentation would be interesting. The elevator descended in silence. Security guard Jake shifting uncomfortably beside him. Michael kept his breathing steady, though his pulse hammered against his collar. Funny how betrayal felt like ice water in your veins, cold, spreading, numbing everything except the sharp edge of anger. He'd suspected this was coming for weeks, ever since Richard started those private meetings with David Kumar, the new IT security guy who'd promised to streamline operations. Michael almost laughed. If only they knew what streamlined really meant. 6 months earlier, Michael had watched Richard charm the investors with promises their AI platform couldn't deliver. The code was buggy, the servers unstable, but Richard painted pictures of revolutionary technology. Michael had worked miracles to make it functional, pulling all-nighters, sacrificing weekends. His girlfriend left. His health suffered. But Richard got the credit, the bonuses, the magazine interviews. Michael became just another expendable employee who knew too much about the company's technical shortcuts. The parking garage smelled of exhaust and defeat. Michael loaded his pathetic box of personal items into his Honda, hands steady despite the rage building in his chest. Richard thought he was clever, firing him the day before the big presentation. Remove the liability, keep the technical knowledge locked away. But Richard had made one crucial mistake. He'd underestimated exactly how deep Michael's access went. Some backdoors weren't documented in any manual David Kumar would ever find. 3 weeks ago, Michael had planted his insurance policy, a few lines of elegant code buried deep in the server management system, completely invisible to routine security scans, triggered by a specific timestamp. Richard had always bragged about starting presentations at exactly 10:30 a.m. Punctuality shows respect for investors' time. Michael had counted on that obsessive precision. In approximately 18 hours, Richard's punctuality would become his downfall. Michael's apartment felt different now, not like a temporary stop between office marathons, but like a place where he might actually live. He microwaved leftover Chinese food and opened his personal laptop. The news websites were already buzzing about tomorrow's presentation. Sterling Tech poised for major investment. Read the headlines. Jessica Martinez, lead investor from Pinnacle Ventures, had flown in from New York specifically for this. Michael wondered if she'd appreciate the technical demonstration she was about to witness. The irony wasn't lost on him. Richard had fired him for security concerns. Apparently, someone had noticed Michael's late-night server access. David Kumar had probably flagged it as suspicious. If only they'd asked the right questions instead of jumping to conclusions. Michael's late nights weren't about stealing data or sabotage. Well, not until Richard forced his hand. Sometimes the best defense really was a good offense, especially when your offense was scheduled to execute in 17 hours and 32 minutes. Sleep came surprisingly easily. Michael dreamed of clean code, elegant solutions, and systems that worked exactly as designed. He woke at 7 a.m. feeling more rested than he had in months. No urgent emails, no crisis calls, no Richard demanding impossible deadlines, just coffee, toast, and the quiet satisfaction of a plan coming together. He checked his watch, 3.5 hours until showtime. The presentation would start with Richard's usual corporate theater, but it would end very differently. By 9 a.m., Michael was dressed in his best suit, sitting in a coffee shop 3 blocks from Sterling Tech's downtown offices. He could see the building from his window seat, glass and steel reaching toward a cloudless sky. Cars were pulling into the executive parking spots. Jessica Martinez's black sedan, Richard's red Tesla, David Kumar's practical SUV. Michael sipped his cappuccino and watched the players assemble for a performance none of them expected. The coffee shop's Wi-Fi was strong enough to connect to Sterling Tech's public network. Not for hacking. Michael was done with that company's systems. This was just reconnaissance. He pulled up the presentation schedule on his phone. Revolutionary AI platform demonstration at 10:30 sharp. Richard would spend 20 minutes on corporate vision, then hand off to the technical team for the live demo. That's when Michael's code would wake up and stretch its digital muscles. 10:15 a.m. Michael's phone buzzed with LinkedIn notifications. Former colleagues posting about the exciting presentation day. Sarah Williams from HR had shared the company post about breakthrough innovations. Michael almost felt sorry for her. Sarah had actually tried to talk Richard out of firing him, arguing that Michael was irreplaceable. She'd been right, just not in the way she'd imagined. Sometimes being irreplaceable meant your absence created very specific, very dramatic consequences. 10:28 a.m. Michael's heart rate picked up, but not from nerves. This was anticipation, pure and clean. He imagined Richard adjusting his tie, checking his notes one final time. Jessica Martinez would be settling into her chair, tablet ready, expectations high. The technical team would be running last-minute checks on equipment that was about to fail in spectacular fashion. Michael finished his coffee and ordered another. This show was worth watching. 10:30 a.m. exactly. Michael's phone timer marked the moment. Somewhere above him, in Sterling Tech's gleaming conference room, Richard was probably launching into his opening remarks about revolutionary partnerships and disruptive innovation. The investors would be nodding politely, waiting for the technical demonstration that would justify their $50 million investment. Michael counted down in his head, 5 more minutes, until the real presentation began. 10:35 a.m. Michael's code had been active for 5 minutes now, quietly spreading through Sterling Tech's server network like digital wildfire. Not destroying anything yet, just positioning itself, claiming territory, preparing for the grand finale. Richard would be finishing his corporate pitch about now, gesturing toward the wall-mounted displays that would soon demonstrate exactly how fragile his company's technical foundation really was. Michael wondered if Richard had practiced his surprised expression. 10:40 a.m. The technical demonstration would be starting. Michael could picture David Kumar confidently approaching the main console, probably making jokes about foolproof systems and enterprise-grade security. The investors would lean forward, ready to see their money transformed into cutting-edge technology. Instead, they were about to witness the most expensive system crash in Sterling Tech's brief history. Michael's code was fully deployed now, waiting for its final instruction. 10:42 a.m. Michael pulled out his phone and opened a simple app he'd coded months ago. One button, labeled Execute. His finger hovered over the screen. This wasn't just revenge anymore. It was justice. Richard had stolen credit, destroyed careers, built his empire on other people's work. The investors deserved to know what they were really buying into. Michael pressed the button and watched the screen flash green. Somewhere above him, Sterling Tech's servers began their death dance. The coffee shop's Wi-Fi couldn't reach Sterling Tech's internal network anymore, because Sterling Tech's internal network had just ceased to exist. Michael's code had executed flawlessly, systematically shutting down every server, every backup system, every redundant failsafe that David Kumar thought made the system unbreakable. The AI platform demo would be displaying nothing but error messages now, $50 million evaporating in real time, one crashed server at a time. Michael's phone buzzed with emergency notifications. Sterling Tech's public website was down. Their customer portal was offline. Even their internal email system had flatlined. This wasn't just a presentation disaster. It was complete digital annihilation. Michael had built those systems from the ground up, which meant he knew exactly how to tear them down again. Richard was probably screaming at David Kumar right now, demanding answers that didn't exist. Through the coffee shop window, Michael could see commotion in Sterling Tech's lobby. People in suits rushing toward the elevators, phones pressed to their ears, faces tight with panic. Emergency IT consultants would be summoned, but they'd find nothing to recover. Michael's code hadn't just crashed the systems. It had methodically corrupted every backup, every recovery point, every digital breadcrumb that might lead back to functionality. This wasn't sabotage. This was erasure. 11:15 a.m. Michael's phone rang. Unknown number. He almost ignored it, then recognized the area code. Jessica Martinez from Pinnacle Ventures. Interesting. He answered with professional calm, introducing himself as Sterling Tech's former senior developer. Her voice was sharp with frustration and something else, curiosity. She'd done her homework and knew Michael's reputation. She wanted to meet, today, away from Sterling Tech's imploding offices. They met at an upscale restaurant downtown, far from the chaos Michael had unleashed. Jessica Martinez was younger than he'd expected, with calculating eyes that missed nothing. She'd already heard rumors about Michael's abrupt firing, about Richard's tendency to claim others' work. The presentation disaster had confirmed her suspicions about Sterling Tech's actual capabilities. She ordered coffee. Michael stuck with water. This conversation required absolute clarity. Jessica's proposal was elegant in its simplicity. Pinnacle Ventures needed someone who actually understood AI development, not just someone who could pitch it to investors. She'd watched Richard's company crumble in real time and realized the talent had been sitting in the wrong chair. $50 million was still available for investment, just not in Sterling Tech anymore. Michael found himself discussing technical specifications, development timelines, and equity partnerships over grilled salmon. By evening, Sterling Tech's collapse was making tech news headlines. Mysterious system failure costs startup major investment. Richard had released a statement blaming unprecedented technical difficulties and promising full recovery within days. Michael knew better. Those systems would never recover because they no longer existed. David Kumar had probably been fired by now, another scapegoat for Richard's failures. The cycle continued, but without Michael's involvement this time. 6 months later, Michael sat in his new office, actual office, with windows and everything, reviewing architectural plans for a genuinely revolutionary AI platform. Pinnacle Ventures had provided seed funding, real technical advisors, and most importantly, a contract that properly credited his intellectual contributions. His team was small but talented, free from Richard's toxic management style. Sometimes the best revenge wasn't destruction. It was building something better from the ashes. Michael's phone buzzed with a LinkedIn notification. Richard Sterling was seeking new opportunities, his profile carefully omitting the spectacular failure that had ended Sterling Tech. David Kumar had landed at a smaller firm, probably still wondering what had hit those servers. Michael closed the notification without reading further. His past was exactly that. Past. The future was code that worked, systems that lasted, and success built on honest foundations. Sometimes you had to burn bridges to build better ones. 3 years later, Michael stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows of his corner office, watching the Seattle skyline emerge from morning fog. 3 years had transformed everything. His company, Quantum Dynamics, now occupied 2 floors of this prestigious downtown building. The irony wasn't lost on him that his office overlooked the street where Sterling Tech's old headquarters once stood. That building now housed an insurance company, all traces of Richard's failed venture erased from the business landscape. Michael's reflection in the glass showed a man who'd learned to wear success comfortably. His assistant knocked and entered with the morning briefings. Jennifer was efficient, loyal, and nothing like the corporate climbers he'd worked with at Sterling Tech. She handed him a tablet, displaying the quarterly reports: revenue up 40%, client retention at 95%, and most importantly, employee satisfaction scores that would make any HR department proud. Michael had built this company on principles Richard had never understood: actual innovation, fair compensation, and treating people like humans rather than disposable resources. The development floor buzzed with productive energy. 23 engineers worked on genuine AI solutions that actually functioned as advertised. No false promises, no impossible deadlines, no stolen credit. Michael walked among the workstations, offering guidance where needed, celebrating small victories with his team. Sarah Chen, his lead developer, showed him the latest breakthrough in natural language processing. She'd been one of Sterling Tech's casualties, too, fired 2 weeks after Michael for asking too many questions about system stability. The conference room filled with Pinnacle Ventures board members for their quarterly review. Jessica Martinez had kept her word about proper partnerships and fair treatment. Their investment had grown into something none of them had initially imagined possible. Michael presented genuine metrics, real performance data, actual working demonstrations. No smoke and mirrors, no desperate pivots when systems failed. The contrast with his last investor presentation couldn't have been sharper. Trust, he'd learned, was the most valuable currency in business. After the meeting, Jessica lingered to discuss expansion plans. European markets were opening up, and 3 major corporations had submitted acquisition offers. Michael wasn't interested in selling, but the validation felt satisfying. She mentioned, almost casually, that she'd heard Richard Sterling was working as a mid-level sales manager at a software company in Portland. The fall from startup CEO to corporate drone had been swift and permanent. Justice, Michael reflected, sometimes wore a quiet face. That evening, Michael drove to his house in the hills, overlooking Lake Washington. Marriage had surprised him. He'd met Anna at a tech conference where she was presenting research on ethical AI development. She understood his work, his principles, and why he'd burned bridges with his past. Their daughter Emma was 2 now, babbling in the mixture of English and code comments that made Anna laugh. Michael had never imagined how completely personal happiness could redefine professional success. His phone buzzed with a LinkedIn message from David Kumar. The former Sterling Tech security manager had tracked him down, requesting a brief conversation. They met at a neutral coffee shop, where David explained he'd spent 3 years trying to understand what had destroyed those servers. Michael listened politely but offered no explanations. Some mysteries were better left unsolved. David had found steady work at a financial firm, older and wiser about the difference between actual security and corporate theater. Michael returned to his office as evening settled over the city. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to build something lasting and honest. He pulled up the code repository for their latest project, scrolling through elegant solutions created by people who trusted each other to do their best work. His revenge against Richard Sterling hadn't been destruction. It had been construction, building something better, fairer, more sustainable. Success, he discovered, was the most satisfying form of justice when it was earned rather than stolen.